All right. For the last week, I've been playing 2 games instead of 1. It started with Panzer Corps 2, which is a successor to Panzer General, which I have very fond memories of. Played that for several scenarios, and plus a tutorial, which I don't think I put on film because it was yawn boring. But anyway, played that for a amount. And then was just curious, the other successor to Panzer General that I'm aware of is Panzer General 2, which we also played, a couple scenarios of. So, what did I think? Well, the reason these are successors to Panzer General was the concept of you've got an army and it plays a series of scenarios and you kind of build and develop that army as you go, which is super cool because you tend to get attached to the army. I've always I shouldn't say enjoyed World War II, but World War II games are right up my alley. I'm currently reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich for the 3rd time, and enjoying it thoroughly. So, it's just a period of time that I have a lot of interest in, and a lot of innovations, both in warfare, but also implications on society that still reverberate. So I decided to start with Panzer Corps 2, given my fondness for this time period. And to be honest, this is a very, very close to what I remember for Panzer General, which was good. It was what I was expecting. But what I wasn't expecting is that I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Now I'm playing on a pretty easy setting, and it's I'm sure there's can be more to it. I didn't get super far into the scenarios to really build an attachment to my military units, but the gameplay is very familiar and it's pretty good. But I just after playing a game like Age of Wonders, or things that, at the time with Panzer General, you had this sort of detailed military simulation, which I really enjoy, but you didn't have the kind of strategic connection to it that you can get from a lot of games now, whether it's a game like Warhammer, or the whole Total War series, or something like Age of Wonders or Dominions, or just a lot of really good games that combine the strategic with the military simulation. This is heavily focused on the military simulation, and it helps if you're into this time frame. But it really doesn't have that strategic element to it. I mean, you build your army over time, but you don't have that whole, build the economy and do your research tree and that sort of thing. I mean, there are new units introduced, but it's just not something where you feel like you're in control of the whole strategic thing. You're very much a general in control of your troops, as opposed to like the Ubermensch for the entire the entire country, where you're doing everything economically and military. The one World War II game I haven't tried, but my son's totally addicted to, is Hoi 4. Trying to remember what the Hoi stands for. Heart of Iron 4. That I've got to try, because that sounds a little closer to what maybe I'm looking for nowadays. So this game is still, and it's just as good as Panzer General. Honestly, it's probably better. When I go back and play old games, I'm like, oh, actually, this adds a lot of quality of life features. I'm sure that's the case with this, even though I haven't gone back and played Panzer General. Okay, so play this fair amount. In the end, production value is fine. It was the kind of hex-based war game I was looking for. But I didn't come away like just craving to play it. I kind of had to force myself to finish up, and ultimately chose to pivot to Panzer General 2 in hopes it would be more engaging. My scoring system is S tier is like a game that either defines or redefines a genre. It's got to be really good. A and B grades are games I really want to keep playing. C and D are games I can live without. I can't believe I'm saying this given how excited I was to play it and how true to what I was expecting this is, but I just didn't enjoy this a ton. I'm not sure I'm gonna play a whole lot more. I think it's a C. It's not a bad game, and if you're an old grognard like me, maybe you get your money's worth out of it. But I just I don't know, kind of got bored. So let's pivot over to Fantasy General 2. Okay, so Fantasy General 2 is very similar. Like, I almost didn't need a tutorial just because I just come from Panzer Corps 2. The reason I like this a little bit more is the fantasy setting gives it an opportunity, for more varied units. Like they're not sticking to World War II expectations. So you can kind of create unique items. And if you have like a leader who's almost like another unit, they're so powerful, that's okay. Like, it's fantasy. Who cares? Conan would be awesome on the battlefield. So maybe, that type of overpowered character is okay in a fantasy setting. Whereas if you were doing Panzer Corps 2 and Rommel was his own character and went and took out a bunch of tanks or something on his own, you'd be like, okay, that's a stretch. And to its credit, Panzer Corps doesn't do that. It sticks to a degree of realism that I found comforting and met my expectations. But it is fun having more variety in the units. Like, you fight in this game, you fight things like, trolls and bears, which, are very different, or wolves, just different stuff. The other thing that I really kind of like better, there is unit development in Panzer Corps 2, but you just sort of become an elite version of what you are, and you can upgrade the gear, upgrade a tank or something like that. But this is more interesting to me, where I can take a unit and advance it up it's almost like a technology tree, but it's not technology, but advance it up this development tree and pick, like, would I rather have slingers or axemen? And if I end up with axemen, then would we be heavy axemen, or would we be thanes, like a military leader? I don't know. Maybe you get that attack. I didn't play it far enough in to do a lot of this development, but the concept is very intriguing, right? Magic missile infantry. Like, you're not going to get magic missile infantry in Panzer Corps 2. And I just am intrigued by this. And you can have, imagination is the only limit on the types of units you can have. Whereas, Panzer Corps 2 is sticking to World War II, which is good and bad, right? Like, that authenticity I would prefer from a historical war game, and from like a fantasy or a sci-fi setting, you can, like, sometimes seeing something that you personally would never have imagined, you're like, oh, that's so cool, I mean, just a really dumb example, but when World of Warcraft came out and I could suddenly play a cowman, a Tauren, I was like, that's so cool. And guess what kind of character I played out of the gate? All right. Now, I was torn. Like, is this game... I gave Panzer Corps 2 a C. Is this game also a C? If I had to pick one of them up again, this is the one I would pick up. So I think, based on that, because sometimes I do get that urge for a hex-based war game, and I really want to play more in the East. Even though I just said that I don't like the authentic ones quite as much as the more imaginary settings. But if I were to pick up a hex-based war game, which sometimes I get the urge to, probably out of nostalgia as much as anything, this is the one I'm going to pick up. A and B is for games that I want to play again. This is on the lower tier there. So it's B. I'm going to give this one a B. Panzer Corps 2 gets a C. I don't think either one comes even close to being a desert island game. Like, for example, in this game, you've got sort of a, well, and it's true for Panzer Corps 2 as well. You have scenarios, right? You have campaigns, but you're going into, choose one of these two directions, and you choose one, and that's the battle you get. It's not like this one actually has a just to contradict myself, has a little bit, it looks like, of replayability. Panzer Corps 2, you could replay it a couple of times, but you wouldn't want to replay it 100 times. Like, you would get bored. Now, I'm sure there is one person out there who has done that, and credit to them. But I just don't see this as that kind of, it's not like Civilization or Minecraft or, even Slay the Spire, which I think has limited replayability. It does the roguelite so well that it is almost unlimited replayability. This is more like follow the campaign, as is Panzer Corps 2, and even more so, I would say. So, replayability, I think, is somewhat limited. But we're going to go with a B on this one. Give it a C to Panzer Corps 2. And, yeah, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy this Game of the Week structure. Subscriptions are what we're really looking for right now. Just trying to get to 1,000. So, since it's free, why not? And then you will see my weekly reviews going forward. Have a great day, great life, play great games, and have a lot of fun. We'll catch you later.